Well, hello there, people with internet, and hello again. I am TheMBmulti. Welcome to, I think this is part 17, I guess, of My Doki Doki SNAFU. In the previous episode, we had our midterm exams, and things have been generally well ever since. So, yeah. And we told Kiba some personal things, I believe. Alright, so we are going back to we're going to get back into the swing of getting to the club, I think. Also, I don't know, like, it made it seem like midterms was a big deal, but then it kind of like glossed over it. So I don't know if I'm like if I'm like locked in a route right now or not, or you know, because of course I still have my this here, the appeal thing. But yeah, whatever. A Coral. Oh yeah, that's right. Sayori went to school early. Went home early or whatever. And I was very eager to see her again because, well, we all know what happens most of the time when Sayori doesn't really feel like coming to school. A coral-haired girl stands waiting near my front gate as I step outside. Good morning, Mark. Morning. Truth be told, I didn't expect you to be so eager about paying me back for yesterday. Well, there's also something I wanted to ask you. Is that okay? Of course. Say whatever's on your mind. Thanks. It's really not a big deal, but I was wondering how the club meeting yesterday went. How? Huh? Yeah, like, were there any issues or did everyone seem happy? Oh, Sayori. I know what you're getting at now already, because of course I've played the main game. I mean, Yuri was worried about your well-being until Monika cleared the air. Aside from that though, everything was mostly business as usual. We all talked about midterms. Monika brought up the club's future, Natsuki and I argued over God knows what. That last part definitely sounds familiar. But what do you mean club's future? Nothing much, honestly. She just explained how we'd use the fall festival to recruit new bloods into the literature club. Did she say how we were gonna recruit people? Nope. Don't you already know, though? Yep. Then how? Sorry, but that's a secret for club executives only. Looks like she's trained you pretty well. Then again, I'm not exactly dying to know. The continued existence of the club post-graduation means practically nothing to me. Hey! What about all the memories we're gonna make? Don't you want to come back as an... What the fuck is an alumni? One day and meet all the new people? Nope, none whatsoever. And alumni is the plural form of that word. You should have said alumnus. Alumnus. What happened to trying harder? Meeting a bunch of fresh-faced brats while I'm in college isn't likely going to improve my situation in any way. Brats? They're still going to be in high school. Yeah, and I'll be a miserable, increasingly jaded college student. The stars in their eyes will remind me of all the youth I wasted, which will create feelings of both discontent and resentment. By that point, I may as well be an elderly man screaming at trespassing schoolchildren. I really don't understand how you think sometimes. Hey, consider yourself lucky. Sayori's shoulders drop as she continues following me along the sidewalk. Monika told us you were fine, but might I ask why you missed the meeting yesterday? Huh? Oh, no special reason really. There were just a few errands I needed to run. My Sayori lie detector goes off as she says this, but nothing about her seems off, so I decide against pressing for a more honest answer. Were you worried about me? Absolutely. I was concerned that strange men had offered you a large sum of money and questionable substances while making shallow promises about turning you famous. Huh? What are you talking about? Nothing important. Just always remember to say no to strangers. Okay. She wears a confused expression for the remainder of our commute. That was cute, but... Aw. No, it's like she's trying to cipher herself away, I guess. Don't do that, Sayori, we all love you. Oh, what's this? Came crawling back for more advice, huh? Should have guessed this would happen. Well, I would have chosen Yuri if to spend my lunchtime with if the option arose, Kiba. Honestly, what would you ever do without me, Mark? Live a more peaceful life. You mean boring life? Let's not get caught up in the semantics. And what did you mean by more advice? Nothing you said yesterday even comes close to being helpful. Hey, I can't help that my boundless wisdom was interrupted by the bell. Which is why you're getting the full course lesson today. Oh. Doesn't that sound particularly that doesn't sound particularly appetizing. Very funny. Truth be told, this meal isn't so much about giving advice as it is ordering you around. Ordering me around? Yep. He wears a dumb grin while motioning me to take a seat. No offense, but the idea of being told what to do by you of all people kinda gives a headache. Come on, there's nothing to worry about. Big bro Kiba only wants what's best for you, you know? None of this feels very convincing coming from the guy who was obsessed with forming a harem up until a few weeks ago. But fine, I'll hear out what you've got on mind. What you've got mind. So it wasn't my fault that I fumbled that sentence because the mod makers fucked up that sentence as well. I'll hear out what you've got on your minds. Excellent. He claps his hands together with enthusiasm that makes me think going along with this may have been a mistake. First, let's go over the basics. I've already got a pretty good idea of what kind of person you are, but I'll ask this anyways just to be sure. Would you consider yourself more goal-oriented or process-oriented? Huh? Did you just step out of a business meeting management class or something? Yes, but that's not important right now. Answer the question, do you focus on achieving goals or making sure the process is totally efficient? I suppose I'm more goal-oriented. Process is important, but taking action without a clear result in mind seems pointless to me. Thank goodness. My whole plan would have been shot to hell if you answered process. What the fuck? Should I really be putting my faith in a plan that can be completely dismantled by a single error? Yeah. Of course. This guy. There's no need to look so sour, you know? It's not like I was taking a shot in the dark. I've been hearing you say stuff like following orders is all I'm good for ever since last term. This made me think that you're better at reaching a goal you're given versus coming up with one on your own. Aren't you just reading into it too much? Possibly. This guy may be a moron, but he does have a point. The majority of my childhood was following along with the orders or commands of others. Well, you're not entirely wrong, but how does any of this play into me trying harder? Isn't the answer obvious? You're worried about your relationship with the girls in your club, then if you're worried about the relationship with the girls in your club, then all we have to do is come up with a tangible goal you can work towards. His confidence in saying this quickly reminds me... What? His confidence in saying this quickly reminds me of how little experience Kiba actually has with other people. I'm no expert, but isn't the act of growing closer with another person purely to fulfill an order? Kinda? What's the word? Dickish? Huh? At that point, the interactions between me and them would be closer to a job than anything else. Oh right, you've got a point. I hadn't really thought of things that way. Which makes the fact you said it even weirder. Well, don't beat yourself up over it. Your plan was never gonna work anyways. Why is that? If simply being told to make friends with people was enough to achieve results, this problem would have been solved ages ago. What exactly do you think Sayori's been telling me all these years? Dang, I forgot you actually have a friend who's sociable. Honestly, why have you got to be so difficult? Another point Sayori often brings up. He thinks in silence for a moment before finally letting out a defeated sigh. I'm guessing your grand plan is in shambles right about now? Something along those lines. And here I thought nothing could be worse than treat it like swimming. Hey, that's still some pretty sound advice. You'd probably be a lot further ahead with this whole try-harder deal if you weren't constantly sitting back and watching from the sidelines. Maybe. But we've already discussed how irresponsible that would be. Irresponsible then. Who cares? We're high school students, for God's sake. We're allowed to make mistakes from time to time. Hell, making mistakes is probably what most people expect from us. It's not like acting friendly and growing closer with one of those girls is accidentally gonna set the whole club up in flames. Well, you know, there are enough mods out there that would like to have a word with you, Kiba. His wares? He wears a much more serious expression following this rant. He, not his. He wears a much more serious expression. Club or not, isn't there at least someone you're interested in learning more about? Well, in a sense, I suppose. Then just work with that, damn it. Stop getting so caught up in the little details and using responsibility as an excuse. Uses as his actual advice may have been, Kiba has a point. The chance of my actions causing the club's entire dynamic to fall apart is incredibly slim. Still. It's scary, especially when a mod like this is mentioning it. Like, no, I don't know. I mean, I do really hope that the relationship between me and the girls of the literature club are strong enough that even if, you know, the club gets dismantled after we all graduate, we all still, like, we technically keep the literature club going because, like, the 5 of us will just stay very close friends, even when we're, like, adults. Like, we would meet up at least, like, once a month or once a year or whatever, you know, have our little literature club meeting with all of us. Just because we've become such good friends over the time that we were in the actual literature club at school, you know? I do feel like that would be, like, a thing. But still, like, when they mentioned, like oh, I'm very scared of, like, things going, like, setting up, like, starting fires by choosing any route, really. Choosing for Monika or Yuri or Sayori or Natsuki or, you know, or Rika. You know, because I'm pretty sure that would be an option. Which I deliberately ignored. Because, of course, I prefer the literature club over the track team club any day of the week. Not to mention how this may be my last chance to forge real relationships before having to deal with the stress that comes along with being a proper functioning adult. So, what's the plan? Gonna start trying harder now, or are you okay with just sitting back and overthinking everything? Call me crazy, but I'm beginning to sense an attitude from you. Yeah, can you blame me? Putting up with your crap personality isn't as easy as I make it look. That a fact. Fine. Fine what? I still think diving in with reckless abandon would do more harm than good in the long run. Run. But next time I feel like putting some distance between me and the others, I'll try ignoring the urge. That's not exactly a lot to go on, you know? What do you expect? I've spent the better part of 4 years refusing to develop any sort of bond with people. No kidding. Well, baby steps are still steps after all. Yeah, exactly. Just try not doing anything stupid, okay? Your way with words can be aggravating at times. Yeah, I'm sure the others in the club are well aware of that fact already. Don't sound so smug about it, would ya? He lets out a sigh while unwrapping his lunch. I've mentioned this before, but you can be strangely reasonable at times. Oh? That's quite the praise coming from someone so painfully unfriendly. But don't go mistaking my services for charity. I do plan on eventually collecting some compensation. Compensation? Of course. Let's say half your harem. Honestly, was this your goal from the beginning? Nope, just figured I'd try acting a little bit more in character. Gotta keep the fans happy after all. You really are impossible. Thanks. Was that like a meta thing? But were they like talking to the players who really love the fans of My Doki Doki SNAFU? Seriously though, I hope things work out with whatever you try doing. You deserve that much at least. Huh? Deserve? Oh sorry, just got a little caught up in acting dramatic. Hey, we should try hurry and eat before the bell rings. Kiba seems somewhat panicked as he begins stuffing a sandwich in his mouth. Right. Aw, he cares about me. Our conversation from lunch floats around in my head right up until the final bell rings. My plan to close the distance between me and the others may sound good on paper, but how exactly do I go about doing that? Plus, what if the girls don't share my sentiments and prefer keeping things the way they are? No, I shouldn't make excuses anymore. But who would I even try this with? Yuri might not be a bad idea. She's not the most social person, which may make growing closer a bit easier. The only issue is with how frequently she asks troublesome questions. The S was missing. Though things should work out, but Should work out okay if I'm able to steer our conversation away from anything personal. No one really comes... A lot of S's are being forgotten. No one really comes to mind. But that doesn't mean I can't still try. Guess the only thing left to decide now is where I should go. Oh, what a tough choice. Literature club, of course. Alright, so we can talk to people. Okay, so because they said that about Yuri, they say, if I choose Yuri now... If I choose Yuri now, does that mean that we're gonna like lock in Yuri's route or whatever? Because they said that previous thing about Yuri? Because I also kind of want to keep talking to Monika a bit. Right, I'm gonna go choose Yuri. Oh, this is something we can... Okay, never mind. That's just something... Yeah, we could try talking more... Okay, now it's on 53. Okay, I'm gonna load it. Talk to Monika instead, because that's some new dialogue we haven't seen. Hello again, Mark. Can I help you with something? Not really. Was only wondering if I could sit here with you. Of course. This club room is just as much yours as it is mine. Right. Following our conversation in the hallway, her overly cheery attitude seems even more unnatural. The others aren't watching us, you know? Which means you can ease up on the song and dance routine. Why? Whatever could you be talking about? I'm simply fulfilling my role as a model club president, am I not? Her smug grin irks me more than it reasonably should. You're messing with me, right? Who knows? Maybe this is my way of getting back at a curious junior who didn't think things through before prying into the lives of others. That effect? She continues with this passive-aggressive attitude for the remainder of the meeting. Okay, there we go, that's it. Wow. Oh, we do have... Oh, look at that! It's almost on 10! Would you look at that, Monika? I'm actually talking to you. I feel unusually drained soon after arriving home. Guess worrying about other people can impact more than just my sleep cycle. Still, there's no point in wasting this free time, not when it can be used to further my agenda. Now then. Oh! Contact Yuri! Hell yeah, we are contacting Yuri. I was gonna say, alright, we've maxed out intelligence, so there's no point in studying when that option comes up. So I'm going to choose go for a run so I can boost my athleticism. But then they present this option, so obviously I'm gonna choose that. Okay, so now like we've got like more options to like close to close the distance or whatever. The kitchen and front hall are noticeably warmer than normal as I step inside. Is the AC set wrong? Looking at the control panel in the living room, I see that the thermostat is set correctly, yet the indoor temperature is significantly higher. After clicking the fan on option, my body is filled with dread when nothing happens. Don't tell me the damn thing is busted. Messing with the panel for a few more minutes yields no results and I eventually accept defeat. Putting out my phone, I look up the nearest, how do you say, HVAC or HVAC? I don't know, technician's number. The call goes smoothly enough, with the only downside being that it's past their operating hours, meaning I'll have to wait until tomorrow for someone to come out. The heat inside isn't horrible, but it's only going to grow hotter until the sun goes down in roughly 4 hours. It might be worth calling Kiba to ask if I can kill time at his place. Resigning myself to deal with his nonsense, I reopen my phone's contact list. While doing this, however, incoming call Yuri. Oh, Yuri's contacting me instead. Yuri? What could she want? Hello? Yes, is this Mark? Yeah, it's me. I'm surprised you called though. Sorry if I'm interrupting anything. I'd considered sending a message but was unsure if you'd see it in a timely manner. Timely? Do you need something? Not something specifically. There aren't any responsibilities for me to handle today, so I was curious to see if you would want to work on the book report together. Book reports, I see. Guess that makes sense. I did tell her to let me know when she had free time. Are you perhaps busy after all? My situation is a bit more complicated than that. Might I ask where you were planning to host this little group work session? Your house, perhaps? Unfortunately, my parents aren't home at the moment and I was unable to ask their permission to have guests over beforehand. Sorry to impose, but could we possibly meet at yours instead? Should have seen that coming. These things can never be simple. Of course, this is quite sudden. If you wish to refuse, that's fine. Don't worry, I'm not against the idea, but is there any way we'd be able to reschedule, like for tomorrow maybe? I'm afraid it is uncertain whether I'll be available again in the near future. The universe must be doing this to me on purpose. I see. Yuri doesn't work well in public places, and it's not like I can just show up to someone else's house with her in tow. Both Kiba and Sayori would probably blow a fuse if I tried either of theirs. If that's the case, it's fine, you can come over. Are you sure? We don't have to I'm totally unoccupied right now, honestly. Then, if it truly isn't a bother, are you sure you'll be able to find the place okay? That shouldn't be an issue. Glad to hear it. Were you planning on coming right now? That's correct. I'm currently at my house gathering books you may find interesting. It should be around 30 minutes before I arrive. Is that alright? Yeah, feel free to head over whenever you're ready. Then I'll be seeing you soon, Mark. Well, props to Yuri for actually having the guts to make that phone call. Although, who knows how long she spent trying to work up the courage to make the call in the first place. Well, it's not like the heat is unbearable, so as long as we're able to finish quick, there shouldn't be any problems. Having properly jinxed myself, I begin getting ready. There's a knock on the door around 20 minutes later. Oh wow, she was fast. Hello. Oh, hello, Mark. Pardon my intrusion. Yuri is carrying her school bag and wearing a pullover that seems overly thick for the current weather. Welcome. That outfit looks nice on you, by the way. Oh, it's really nothing special. Barely 10 seconds have passed and she's already blushing. The girl really has no defense at all. Here, come in. You can sit your things in the living room. Right, thank you. She follows me through the house into the living room, where I motion to her to take a seat on the couch. Unfortunately, with the sun coming directly through the window, it's slightly hotter in here than the rest of the house. Sorry about the heat, the central AC unit is apparently busted, and the technician won't be able to come look at it until tomorrow. That's the reason I was hesitant for you to come over. If it ever gets too hot to handle, just say something and maybe we can find a dinner or a cafe to go to. She shakes her head. There's no need to worry, I'm rather well adjusted to high temperatures. I'm tempted to address the thick, long-sleeve pullover she's wearing, but decide Yuri's the one who knows what's best for her. Even if she's holding back out of shyness, surely the girl's not stubborn enough to give herself heat stroke. Well, depends on, what you're trying to hide in Yuri's case. In that case, shall we begin? 40 minutes passed for the two of us going about our own work. After handing over 4 of the books she brought, Yuri began compiling an outline of her report. With her being occupied, I did a quick scan through the opening chapters of each title, eventually settling on one named The Hollow Places. The workspace around us is what do you mean practically ideal? Or like it works in a practical way? Is that what you mean? Okay, whatever. It sounds a bit odd for some reason. The workspace around us is practically ideal, as there is little in the way of words or noise between us. Unlike a certain vice president I know, Yuri isn't constantly trying to take breaks or looking at her phone. Even when she wants me to proofread, she'll wait until I no longer appear busy. The old codger spirit residing within me wants to say this is about as peaceful as it gets, but there is one caveat. That being the reserved bookworm sitting in front of me. The one who's currently wiping the sweat off her forehead in an unconvincing manner of just brushing the hair out of my face. Teehee. Even after stating the temperature wouldn't be bothersome, it's blatantly obvious that she's uncomfortable. Her reluctance to remove the pullover confused me at first, but my hypothesis now is that she's just a free spirit who doesn't wear undershirts. Well, I also can't help but notice that she hasn't rolled up her sleeves either. Even if it's not much, a little more skin to air contact could provide some relief. Past traumas tried convincing me of the worst possible reason, but I largely ignore them to form other conclusions. Doubt she practices any religions that restrict her ability to reveal her forearms, and she doesn't seem to be enjoying her plight enough to be a masochist. Maybe she's got a tattoo? Though it is the more of a reasonable assumption I've made, Yuri doesn't strike me as someone who goes out and drunkenly gets wrist tats with all her valley friends. Perhaps she's been branded? There are cults that force their members to... Mark? Snapped out of increasingly unrealistic delusions, my attention is returned to Yuri, who is bashfully glancing between her notebook and me. Did you need something? Well, not really. You've just been looking at me for a while. I was wondering if maybe you had something to ask. She avoids looking in my direction while her face grows increasingly red. It's possible I've been staring at her ever since spacing out. That would explain all the fidgeting she's doing right now. As I'm about to reply, a part of my brain decides now might be the best time to satiate my curiosity. My decision here could permanently affect my relationship with Yuri. I should choose carefully. Ooh. Okay. Save. Well, I would pry. Sorry, Yuri, you're just so beautiful I couldn't look away. Huh? That sad. Surely wearing those thick clothes can't be comfortable in this god-awful heat. My mother still has some shirts upstairs that may fit you. I'll go grab them. No. You don't... Taking her inability to form a coherent sentence as a confirmation of my intentions, I stand up and head toward the stairs. As I'm picking through drawers in my parents' old bedroom, a thought dawns on me. If she really is wearing that thick shirt to avoid having to wear anything underneath, I may have to drastically alter my approach. Coming to a guy's house knowing you'd be alone together is suspect enough, but to do it half-dressed? This thought is cut off as I find a nice purple t-shirt with Yuri's name practically written across it. However, this momentary satisfaction is quickly ruined by my troubling thought from earlier. Blank? Are you out of the bath yet? I gently open the door. Why? Oh, oh, hello. The words get caught in my throat as I'm exposed to a grisly sight. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, wearing only a towel. However, it's her arms that draw my attention. Each one is covered in several red Oh, okay, so his sister did that too. Also, like... suffered from... What is it officially called? Like auto-mutilation? Some are light-colored and faded, while others are a deep crimson that look almost brand new. Ah! That was the most pathetic R. Hearing my shriek, she quickly turns around. It's not long before all the blood has drained from her face. In what may have been the first time I've ever seen her panic, she tucks her arm behind her back in an attempt to hide arms. My eyes begin stinging at this point as tears start flowing out. What happened to your arms? Why are you bleeding? Did you get hurt? Along with the panic, this may have also been the first time I'd ever seen her injured. She'd get scrapes and bruises here and there from sporting events, but this sight was totally foreign to me. Sorry, Mark, you were never meant to see this. Guess I've really screwed up, huh? What? Why? My uncontrollable crying caused any and all words to come out completely unintelligible. Wearing a pained expression, Blank... I'm just gonna say Blank instead of brr, I guess that's easier. Blank steps towards me. What? After closes the gap? After she closes the gap between us to less than a meter, she untucks her arms and reaches out to me. Seeing them causes me to flinch, but I end up in her embrace nonetheless. Come on, how do you expect people to stop treating you like a brat if all you ever do is cry? I never wanted to retort... What? I really wanted to retort this. To say anything at all. But she's right, I am just a brat and crying like this is about all I'm good for. You may be too young to understand, but I'll try explaining it to you. Just please, don't cry. The memory is so intense that all I can do is stare blankly, completely devoid of enthusiasm. Self-harm, huh? It's true, I've seen Yuri tug at her sleeves before, not to mention she's also knowledgeable about knives. I cursed myself briefly for entertaining such a ridiculous idea. Am I really so warped that someone wearing long sleeves on a hot day is enough to bring up trauma from my past? Part of me wants to grab up the purple shirt and confidently present it to Yuri, knowing full well she'd accept it with a big smile on her face. But that's not who I am. A cynical, suspicious, and never give people the benefit of the doubt. Oh, I'm cynical, suspicious, and never give people the benefit of the doubt. Without so much as a thought, I grabbed a thick cotton long sleeve button up that was lying next to the purple shirt. Vacant of emotion, I backtracked to the stairs. Re-entering the living room, I find Yuri still be seated. The red face and constant fidgeting shows she probably hasn't gotten over my compliments. Noticing my presence, she quickly returns to me with her eyes landing on the clothes in my hand. There's no need to do so much for me, Mark. The heat in here really is tolerable. I see. Still, having options wouldn't hurt. Are you alright, Mark? Oh, nothing, it's just... never mind. In that case, I'll lay the two shirts flat on the couch next to her. I'm not well aware of women's fashion, so bringing a few things to choose from seemed like a good idea. Anyone exposed to the heat in this room would obviously go for the light polyester blend t-shirt. Not only is the button-up long-sleeved, it's barely any thinner than what she's wearing now. Some hope rises in me when Yuri's eyes light up at the sight of the purple tee. However, after a few seconds, something like a shadow falls over her face and reaches for the button-up instead. Well, I wouldn't mind wearing this one. She jumps in surprise as I grab her forearm. Mark, using my other hand, I swiftly pull up her sleeve. Oh, wow. Okay, wow, that is very assertive of me. Yuri's face turns pale wide as severe pain begins running through my chest. A familiar sight of cuts and scars is burned into my retinas. Taking advantage of my weakened grip, she quickly jerks away before pulling the sleeve back down. The silence of our shock fills the room for a moment. It's broken by Yuri, who stands up while wiping tears from her eyes. Sorry, I'll be going now. She leaves the room after throwing everything into her bag. The pain in my heart causes... Fucking stop her, man! Say something! The pain in my heart causes my whole body to become stiff, feeling as though my chest could collapse at any minute. I know this isn't something I'm qualified to help with. I know that interfering could very well cause things to get worse. I know reporting this to the school or her parents would be the responsible move. But still, I'm not sure if it's the flashback of my past or the sight of her crying, but I soon find myself dashing to the front door. Hearing me enter the hallway, Yuri glances in my direction while stepping into her shoes. This gives me time to close the distance between us. Why? I've wrapped my arms around her before she can manage a response. My sudden grip causes her to recoil slightly, but she offers no struggle to break free. Stop, I know what I am. You don't have to pity me. Her choked voice and continuous stream of tears helps reaffirm me of my decision. It's alright, Yuri, I'm not angry or trying to pity you. I'm just worried. She begins shaking her head, as though trying to negate my words. This stops after several seconds, with me holding my tongue, waiting for her to calm down. Unfortunately, this silence gives rise to troubling thoughts. I'm not mad, and I'm worried. These are the words I wanted to say back then, to show that I cared, that it hurt to see her in pain. Even though I've grown taller, I'm just as much of a brat now as I was when she went through this. Isolated, careless and irresponsible. It's like crying was the only thing I managed to stop. But now I have an opportunity to change things for someone. To provide something that I never could back then. Gripping Yuri tighter with what feels like guilt, I begin speaking. This is a selfish request, but please allow me to try and stop you from doing this. I don't want to see you being hurt by anyone, including yourself. That said, it's your choice. If you want to quit, I'll do what I can to help. If not, I won't interfere with your life in any way whatsoever. Forcing my help onto someone who doesn't want it isn't charity. It's stupid. What happens next is entirely up to her. I want to stop. The tension in Yuri's body eases up slightly as she whispers this. Having received my answer, I release my embrace and take a step back. I understand. This time I grab her hand before heading towards the kitchen. Mark, sorry, but the fine details can wait until later. Something else needs to be taken care of first. Yuri watches anxiously as I move her forearm up and down. What? I move her forearm up, I'm just like holding it, like moving it up and down. How does it feel? Oh, there we go. It doesn't hurt. I'm asking if it's comfortable, given that the wounds are treated. Whether there's pain or not isn't a current concern. Well, there's a tightness, I suppose. But it isn't worth troubling yourself with. Cutting her off, I undo the bandages that had just been wrapped. Following our confrontation in the front hall, I brought Yuri into the kitchen before going upstairs to retrieve my first aid kit. The distilled water and alcohol pads were used to wash the cuts that still looked open. She informed me they were disinfected regularly, but still flinched whenever the alcohol made contact. A dry, sterile wipe was then used to wipe off any excess water, alcohol or blood. The final step in this laceration workshop was wrapping her arms in gauze. Gauze? Is that how you say that even? It's not the super thick, ultra absorbent stuff you see in hospitals, but it should work fine nonetheless. How about now? That feels better, thank you. Sorry for making you go through all the trouble. Don't worry, wrapping them yourself probably wouldn't have been possible anyways. It may also be worth mentioning that the last 15 minutes or so, Yuri has said thank you and sorry a combined total of 30 times. At first I explained that she didn't need to thank me or have anything to apologize for, but by now my brain doesn't even register the words. That should do it for this one. Yeah, let me see the other. Right, sorry. The bandaging process begins once more. Mark? Are you sure about doing this? It's alright if you don't. Ow! Thumping a spot on her arm I just covered works wonders at halting Yuri. I told you we'd go over the details later, didn't I? For now, finishing this is the priority. She opens her mouth to interject, but soon closes it once more. The next few minutes are spent ensuring everything has been covered and that nothing was too tight. After receiving her approval, I stand up from the floor, giving Yuri a chance to observe her newly mummified arms. The oolong that has been made in preparation for her visit has stagnated, leading me to take a liter bottle of convenience store tea out of the fridge. Want some? Huh? Oh, yes please. I take a seat at the table after filling up 2 cups. Needing a chance to get our thoughts in order, we begin sipping our drinks. Already having a good idea of the points Yuri will bring up, I begin speaking first. Knowing her personality, laying everything out now is the right move. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm not qualified to help with something like this. In fact, taking it upon myself is probably the most irresponsible choice. I do have some knowledge and experience dealing with self-harm, but that hardly makes me a professional. Part of my offer was also done for selfish purposes. While I do want to help you quit, the situation serves as a means to prove something to myself. I'm normally one to pry into the lives of others. In fact, going out of my way like this makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable. That said, you are important to me. If it's what you desire, I'd be more than willing... What? I'd be more than willing everything in my power to help. Using everything in my power to help, I guess. And like I mentioned before, if you refuse, I will not interfere with your life in any way. Everything is entirely up to you. With my piece being said, all that's left is Yuri's response. However, instead of replying, she stares at me with a dumbfounded expression. You're very honest, aren't you, Mark? Honest isn't a word to describe people like me. Not reacting to my mumbling, Yuri looks softly at the cup of tea in her hands. You mentioned part of the reason you wished to help was because I was important to you. That's correct. Hearing you say that make me very happy. Seeing you go through so much trouble does make me feel guilty though. Yuri's eyes shift from the teacup to her arms, her smile becoming increasingly more pained. When you pulled up my sleeve and saw this, it felt like my heart would stop. I was afraid, like my whole life had ended, sad as though someone very dear to me had suddenly vanished. I know this can't go on forever, and yet part of me wants your help, but another piece... Her mouth falls shut as she becomes increasingly torn over my offer. Being considerate is fine, but letting it get to a point of inducing guilt like this? You're overthinking things. My help is available if you want it. Make your decision with the assumption that my life won't be impacted either way. Well... She stops as I shoot her a give me a simple answer look. Taking a few seconds more to think, Yuri slowly begins to nod her head. I want your help, but that's the only part that matters then. Huh? Whether helping you is troublesome or a burden is entirely up to me. Given as how you can't fundamentally adjust the attitude at which I do something, you shouldn't worry. I want to help, so I'll give you help, easy as that. I'm a dense guy, you know. If you start making things too complicated, I'll end up getting lost. Understand? Another few seconds of silence pass before that slight smile returns to her face. Yes, I understand. Thank you, Mark. Unlike her apologetic thank yous from earlier, this one sounds genuinely grateful. Don't be too appreciative. Part of this did stem from my selfishness, after all. You're very kind, Mark. I'm glad you're the one who joined our club. What part of selfish did she not get? Surely she knows the meaning of the word. Well, hopefully I'll actually be able to help. As for right now, motioning toward the window in the living room, I point out that the sun has nearly gone down. Oh my, to think it has already grown this late. We've got quite a bit done, so how about we call an end to our little impromptu intervention? That's fine. I'd feel bad making you do anything more for me today. Standing up, the two of us start toward the front door. There's one last thing I'd like to know before you leave, if that's alright. Besides me, who else knows about this little habit of yours? Well... You could say nobody officially knows about it, but... Natsuki might have an idea. She's never mentioned anything out loud, but the two of us have spent a significant amount of time together. Learning that she's suspicious wouldn't be a surprise. Natsuki, huh? She doesn't exactly strike me as sharp, but these things do become increasingly apparent after being observed long enough. Speaking of which, might I ask how you found out? Like I said earlier, I have some experience with this sort of thing. It's not knowledge I particularly want, but no point in complaining if it allows me to help someone else. Experience? Yuri's gaze drifts towards my arms. Yeah. That's not what I meant by experience, I say after flicking her forehead. Forgive me. She begins rubbing over the newly reddened spot between her eyes. Sayori mentioned you enjoy bullying girls. This must be punishment for not heeding her words. You're better off not listening to anything Sayori says about me. That aside, I'll be sure to keep quiet about things on my end. As for the cutting, I'm not expecting you to stop cold turkey. If you can resist the urge, great. If not, we'll keep treating the wounds until coming up with a better long-term solution. Feel free to call or text me to take your mind off it if necessary. I'll do what I can, but keep in mind that I'm not legally certified. I'll do my best. Glad to hear it. That is actually some pretty good advice, because I think I mentioned this, I believe, in Blue Skies, but after I... Oh, did I mention it after I played Blue Skies? Yeah, either way, I like the early days of me starting Doki Doki mods. After I played the main game, for sure. I actually like, because Yuri's my favorite character, and of course her problem is the self-harm. Her struggles with that, of course. Because of that, I actually started to read up on what you can do about, you know, if a friend of you or something has done that or is doing it. like what advice you can give that person, or like what you can do to help them. Because, you know, I was interested because it made me aware of like, oh yeah, of course. And of course, in real life, I've actually, a friend of mine, he has unfortunately committed suicide as of, what was it, like 4 years ago or something along those lines? I don't remember for sure, but he also self-harmed, which I found out later because, of course, but we were in high school. I was naive and young, and of course that world was, I had never heard of that world ever. So of course I had no idea. But after the fact, I learned that, oh yeah, and then when he told me, and then I was kind of like, later on I'll be able to piece together the odd moments or whatever, and oh yeah, with the knowledge that he was self-harming, like, oh yeah, that's why he asked me to do this, so that I wouldn't see this or that or whatever, you know? Like, I believe he didn't do it on his arms, like where Yuri had did it, because I have seen him wear like shirts with short sleeves. But I believe it was like on his upper arms or like his chest or his back, you know, his like upper body or whatever. Because the way I knew it is because like when I pieced it together, like in retrospect, is because when we were like in PE class together, we were in the changing room. He would always linger. He would always be very slow in changing into his gym clothes, so that he was always the last guy there, which makes sense because, you know, he didn't want anyone to see that he was self-harming. So of course, with everybody present in the locker room, then obviously everybody would have seen. And he would always be the last person in the locker room so that he could change his shirts completely alone, so that nobody was there to see him. But then when we became friends and I started hanging out, because I thought he was doing it because he hated PE. He actually did hate PE, just as me. So I thought it was just a very clever tactic of lingering just long enough in the locker room so that you would miss part of PE class, but then not too long that it becomes suspicious or whatever, you know? Like that, I thought he was like super clever. I thought he was like fucking clever, like holy shit, that's a great idea. But his problem, of course, was that all of a sudden I was there and I was waiting for him to be done so that we could leave together. So he would always ask me to turn around when he changed his shirts. So of course, he said that he felt uncomfortable with me watching him taking his shirt off, which I thought was normal. Like, okay, well, there are people that feel uncomfortable, but that's completely fine. We're friends. I respect that you don't feel comfortable with that, so I will just gladly turn around every time you take your shirt off or whatever, you know? Like, that's no big deal for me. But of course, in retrospect, the real reason why he did that is because, again, he did not want me to see all of his cuts and whatnot on his body and stuff. So, how the hell did he even get on this topic? Oh yeah, because so after playing, so I have some experience with that, like, retrospectively in real life, because, you know, I never got to a point where it's like, oh my god, it's like, what can I do to help you? Because, you know, like I said, it was only like after the fact. So yeah, after I played Doki Doki Literature Club, and, you know, Yuri's my favorite character, and I was like, oh, she self-harms. I actually like went on websites to read up about what you can do as like an outsider when a friend of yours is suffering from automutilation, or you know, has the urge to self-harm. What you can do as like a friend, or you know, like, and there are some of the things that my MC here says. I remember them because, you know, those are, things I've read on those websites. You know, like, obviously you can't immediately stop it. It's not like something that you can just like, all right, we're done now. Because, you know, if that was the thing, then I would have done that already. The people that want to stop, of course. So, of course, it doesn't really, like, you can't immediately, like, turn it off. So you can never be angry. Like, that's what it said on the website too. Like, don't be angry when they keep doing it. Because it's like not an easy fix, not something that just can be turned off just like that. And if you like get upset with them that they did it again, then they will feel like that it's not working, even though, like, you know, what you should be doing is like praise the time in between or whatever, you know. Like if they like keep resisting the urge, like if their normal habit is cutting every like 2 days or whatever, and then they try to stop, and like you're there to help them, and then instead of 2 days, it was 5 days or whatever. Like, don't get upset like, oh, you were going so well, why the fuck did you do that? No, you have to say like, hey, holy shit, you went an additional 3 days just like that, you know. Like, holy crap, that's major. Like, you know, you should focus on that. Don't focus on, oh, you relapsed or whatever. And like, you should focus on, holy fucking shit, you actually like, look how far we've already come. This was the first attempt or whatever, you know, like the first time controlling the urges, and look at that, you immediately added 3 days, something that you've never like accomplished before. Holy fuck, that's amazing, you know. You should focus on that stuff. And there were other things about, you know, like if they have the urge, then you could be like a contact for them if they feel comfortable around you. That was like the first thing, like make talking about this stuff comfortable for them, so that they can bring it up, because of course, you know, just like here with Yuri immediately thought, oh, this, you know, Yuri was kind of like blushing throughout the weeks leading up to this, like, oh, because, you know, Yuri actually does care about me, MC or whatever. So, you know, when I saw that when I saw her exposed arms with all the cuts on it, immediately her entire world collapsed. She immediately thought, all right, well, it's over. The guy that I like is gonna hate me now. He's gonna tell everybody I'm gonna get kicked out of the literature club. I'm going to get kicked out of school. Maybe my parents are going to grind me for life. Sayori, Natsuki, like Sayori and Monika will like never talk to me again. Natsuki will just like completely go berserk on me and never come to my house. And you know, that's probably like roughly the scenario that Yuri imagined in her head within like 3 seconds of me seeing her arm. So the very first thing that in any self-harm situation is to make sure that that person knows that like the secret is safe. You don't tell anyone about that unless she or he or they specifically tell you to do so or give you permission to do so, and that there will not be any judgment from your side either. That's talking about self-harm with you is a safe space for the other person. And that is like the biggest first thing that needs to be done. And then when you have established a like proper solid safe space with that person, then in order to combat the urge, which is like, you know, the next step of like first of all, I can't remember, like it's been a while since I've read those websites, but like I believe the first step was acknowledging wanting to stop with self-harm. That was like the first step. Like they actually have to like genuinely want that, and they need to think it over, and you know, you talk with them about it, and then yes, they genuinely want. That was the first step, acknowledging that that is what they definitely want, and then you can focus on like helping them. Another thing was like the second thing was it was their battle to fight, but you can help, but you shouldn't fight it for them or whatever. Like, of course, you can't just restrict your arms or their arms or whatever. Like, oh no, you're not gonna cut today or whatever. Like that's not how it goes. And then the other thing was like in the journey of repressing the urges, once you've created that safe space, you could be like a contact or whatever, you know? Like if they feel the urge to self-harm, they could like distractions often help. Or I also read that like grabbing an ice cube and running that along where you usually do the self-harm, that could help as well, because a cube of ice is of course very cold and it kind of like hurts in a way, so you can kind of like trick your body in giving the sensation or the satisfaction of self-harming without actually doing it. But for some people that doesn't work, but for others it does. Or like distractions help, because when you're around, again, every person is different, of course, but when you're around other people, things like that go away or whatever, because you're having a good time and your body or your mind is focused on that and it doesn't think about the self-harm or whatever. Which is kind of like, it's a bit of a gross thing to say, really, but like it's about jerking off or like having sex with someone. Like often happens when you're bored or whatever, you know. Like, I can't remember what it was. Like it was like an article or whatever. It was like a study or something about like unemployed people or people that are like not necessarily dumb, but you know, like that like have very little going in their lives, like in terms of social or anything, in like very little hobbies or whatever. Those people like get more children because when you like don't have a job or like you don't have any social circle, you get bored very easily. What do you do then? You're gonna, like, when you're alone, you're going to, you know, and then when you're with someone else, then you're gonna you know. So like it was a very long time ago. It was like statistically, people who are like unemployed or have like very low, like don't go to work very often, like very little social circles or whatever, like statistically they get more people because they, you know, like they get up to it a lot more because they're bored or whatever. So, you know, it's the same. It's a bit of a gross comparison, but it's the same with self-harm. If you're just in your room on your own and you don't have anything to distract yourself, what are you gonna do? Well, this or you know, playing the violin. That's what I was doing. But, you know, like when you have no distractions, then, you know, your mind can go in weird, gross or dark places and easier than when you're surrounded with distractions. Now, of course, you can't really like distract yourself all the time. That doesn't work. And also, you know, you can also go too far where you distract yourself too much, where your whole life is just like long live the fun and no responsibilities or whatever. Like, no, I can't come to work. I need to, I don't know, do something to distract myself. Like, no, that doesn't work either or whatever, you know. But because there's always the extreme version of that. But yeah, so it was kind of funny. But yeah, you know, like first you need to like create that safe space with that person, and then like, you can be like the helpline or whatever, you know, like the. Like when they feel the urge to do any sort of self-harm, then you could be the distracting factor, perhaps. If they feel comfortable with it, of course. Because again, it is their battle. They have to fight it. No matter how much you want to do it for them, you can't. They have to do it. They need to want to fight that battle. And they have to do it on their own. But not alone. You know? Like, they have to fight the battle on their own, or whatever, like, or the other way around. I don't know, like, how you say that properly. Is it like, you have to fight the battle alone, but not on your own? Or is it you have to fight the battle on your own, but not alone? Whatever, whichever one of those two makes sense. But anyway, they have to fight the battle, but you can help. You are the they are the legion, you are the auxilia. to stick with the Roman theme of this YouTube channel. They are the auxilia. You are the auxilia. They are the legion. The Roman legionnaires. You are the auxilia. You are the help troops that perform super crucial roles in various battles. You are at every battle, but they have to fight it and you have to help them. Well, don't have to, you know. But, you know, if you say you want to help, like, then you'll be there in every battle that they call upon you. And then you can help, you know. It's their battle to fight, but you can help them win it, or whatever. So, yeah, I thought it was kind of funny, you know, some of the things that are written here. Like, I'll be sure to keep quiet, you know, like, I won't say anything, you can trust me, we can talk about this openly between the two of us, don't worry, I'm not gonna treat you any differently, because we don't want anyone else to find out. And here, of course, you know, I'm not expecting you to stop immediately. If you can resist it, great. If not, don't worry, we'll keep treating the wounds. Like, that is... I mean, again, I'm not an expert either, but from what I remember when I, like, did a deep dive into those, like, websites about how to help someone who suffers from this is exactly what I remember that you need to do. So kudos to the mod makers for getting that correctly. And also here, feel free to call or text, because I can help with the, you know, distract, and, you know, that's all exactly how I remember what you need to do in these situations. So, good job. Even though she opens the front door, Yuri seems hesitant to leave. Embark, about what you said earlier? Well, I care about you too. Before giving me a chance to respond, Yuri leaves the house, throwing the door closed behind her. It's true that I see her as important, but Yuri may have just confused her to having romantic feelings for me. Saying I care about you in friend terms wouldn't normally cause your face to turn bright red or warrant slamming a door. If that's the case, I'll have to be more careful with how I behave from now on. This thought stays in my head as I head upstairs. Alright, June 1st. Alright, I'm gonna end it off here. So there we go. We've discovered Yuri's self-harm. And, alright, let's actually check appeal before we leave. Oh, it's lower now. Why is it lower again? Is it because well, she seemed nice about it, but why did it lower? Well, because I was assertive. So if I if I said no, if I wasn't gonna pry and I was just going to say whatever and let it slide, will that, will then Yuri ever show that stuff on her own accord? Will that lead to a different, I don't know. Maybe there's a different ride where you don't pry at all and Yuri just shows it out of her own volition or whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna end it off here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Click the like button underneath if you liked it. Subscribe to join the Roman army, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later, Romans. Valete.